October 31st, 2017, Loganville, Georgia. It was supposed to be one of the best nights of their lives. 5 friends, dressed in cheap costumes and high on teenage freedom, headed out into the cool Halloween evening. They had no idea that one of them wouldn't make it home. And when the truth started to surface, the horror didn't end with the crime itself. It was what the police did afterward that truly turned the town against itself. The group had been inseparable since middle school. Alyssa Beckett, 17, bright, loud, and fiercely loyal. She was the glue of the group. Marcus Green, 18, football captain with a soft spot for horror movies. Jade Lynn, 17, quiet, artistic, always carried a sketchbook. Zachary Torres, 18, the jokester who made even funerals awkwardly funny. And Samantha Sam Carter, 16, the youngest, shy, curious, and just happy to be included. They'd all crammed into Marcus's Jeep around 8:15 p.m. that Tuesday night. The plan was simple. Scare each other with ghost stories at Dead Man's Trail, a wooded area near the outskirts of town. Then hit a late-night diner and maybe crash at Alyssa's. It was teenage cliché until the scream. 10:04 p.m., emergency call log begins. The 911 call from Sam's phone came in garbled, panicked. She's bleeding. Please. There's blood everywhere. The dispatcher tried to get a location, but the call dropped. 12 seconds. That's all it lasted. When they tried calling back, no answer. They marked it as unconfirmed disturbance, priority 2. Police didn't dispatch anyone for 42 minutes. Background. What happened at Dead Man's Trail? According to Zachary and Jade, who would later give statements under intense scrutiny, they had just finished telling a story about a murdered hitchhiker when the air changed. We heard a branch snap. Then someone ran, Zachary said. We thought it was a prank, until Sam screamed. They found Alyssa lying in a clearing, blood pouring from a gash in her neck. Sam was next to her, hands trembling, trying to press her jacket against the wound. Alyssa's lips moved, but no words came. Her eyes were wide. Then she went still. We tried calling 911 again. No signal. Jade later told detectives. Marcus ran to the Jeep to drive out for help, but he never came back. 11:37 p.m., Officer Shane Halpern files a report. According to the original police report, officers arrived at the trailhead at 11:31 p.m., found the 4 teenagers in visible distress, and called for backup. Alyssa Beckett was pronounced dead at the scene, but that was only half the story, because Sam Carter, the girl who tried to save her friend's life, was missing. November 1st, 2017, 2:04 a.m. Sam's phone pinged 2 miles from the trail, near an abandoned property once owned by a local pastor named Elijah Griggs. The house had burned down years before, but the foundation still stood, charred beams and vines swallowing the remains. That's where they found Marcus's Jeep, engine running, headlights still on, but no Marcus, no Sam. The investigation begins. Sheriff Caldwell assured the media it was a tragic but isolated case, but nothing about it made sense. Why didn't 911 respond immediately to the call? Why was Marcus's Jeep moved? Why was Sam's blood found under Alyssa's fingernails? Detective Layla Monroe from the State Bureau took over when local efforts stalled. She requested cell tower dumps, text logs, and all 911 dispatch recordings from that night. What she found would tear the department apart, because the original 911 call hadn't just dropped. It had been manually disconnected by the dispatcher. The reason? She thought it was a prank. Victimology and evidence discovery. Alyssa had no known enemies. She was top of her class, captain of the debate team, and planned to study journalism. The autopsy ruled her death as exsanguination from a sharp force injury. The angle suggested she'd been attacked from behind, possibly while kneeling. Her phone had several missed calls from Sam just minutes before the 911 call. Last message from Sam. He's watching us. I don't know who he is. November 2nd. Search widened. Marcus's body was found hanging from a tree not far from where the Jeep had been. His hands were tied behind his back. At first glance, it looked like a suicide, but zip ties on the wrists told a different story. The official cause of death, Ligature strangulation. Post-mortem. Someone had staged it. And Sam? No sign. Not alive. Not dead. Gone. November 5th, whistleblower steps forward. A junior dispatcher named Tamara Reed came forward with a statement. She said she heard the 911 call in real time. She told her supervisor they should respond immediately. I told her it didn't sound like a prank, she wrote in her affidavit. But she told me, that's the Carter girl. She's done this before. Turns out, Sam Carter had called 911 once before, 8 months earlier, reported a man watching her through her bedroom window. No report was filed. No follow-up ever made. Jade's journal entry, found November 9th. Alyssa knew something was wrong. She told me not to go that night. She said she got a weird DM about Dead Man's Trail. We thought it was just a joke. I keep thinking, what if it wasn't random? Detective Monroe receives a 911 audio from a tech who retrieved corrupted files from Sam's phone. The final, chilling seconds of the call are clear now. Who was the man in the woods? Why was the call terminated? And what really happened to Sam Carter? The truth is worse than anyone expected. November 10th, 2017, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, Command Post. Detective Layla Monroe leaned back from the audio console, face pale. The recovered 911 recording from Samantha Carter's phone confirmed what she'd already feared. Someone was with them that night. Someone watching. Someone waiting. But what shook her more wasn't the voice in the woods. It was that someone inside the 911 call center knew it and chose to ignore it. Background deepens. Samantha's past. Detective Monroe dug into Sam Carter's life beyond that forgotten 911 call from 8 months earlier. She discovered something her local precinct hadn't bothered to investigate. In March 2017, Sam's school council had submitted a concern for welfare report, noting that Sam claimed a man had been following her home from school, always at a distance, always wearing the same black hoodie. She thought it was her imagination until she saw him standing in her backyard. Campus security checked nothing. Police were unable to locate any threat. The case was closed. Sam was labeled attention-seeking. But now, 2 of her friends were dead, and Sam was missing. November 11th, blood in the ashes. GBI cadaver dogs swept the burned ruins of the Griggs property, where Marcus's Jeep had been left running. In the basement, beneath fallen concrete and scorched beams, they found traces of blood, 3 separate samples. One belonged to Marcus. One was matched to Sam. The third, unknown male DNA. But here's the most disturbing part. There were drag marks in the ash. Someone had been pulled into and left there. The Elijah Griggs theory. Locals still whisper about Pastor Elijah Griggs, the fire and brimstone preacher who once ran the revivalist Church of Return. He lost his congregation after child abuse allegations surfaced in 2002. Then his house burned down under suspicious circumstances. He was never arrested, never even questioned. He vanished. No death certificate, no relocation records. Some believed he had died in the fire. Others believed he never left. Detective Monroe wasn't superstitious until she saw what was scratched into the foundation wall of the crawl space. Deliver the 5, written in dried blood. The missing phone. Sam's phone was finally found 5 miles away in a storm drain. The screen was cracked, but the SD card was intact. Monroe ordered digital forensics to recover every photo, voice memo, and message. One video file, time-stamped October 31st, 10:01 p.m., just before the 911 call, was partially recovered. The footage is jerky. Sam's breath is fast. Her camera faces the woods. You can barely hear her whispering. Alyssa, don't go over there. Stop, stop. A figure appears between trees. Not close, but tall. Still. Oh my God, he's real. I told you, he's real. The clip cuts out. The town turns. News spread fast. Parents protested outside the police station. Why didn't 911 respond? Why were warnings ignored? And why, now, was there internal chatter about destroying evidence? Whistleblower Tamara Reed was fired 2 days after her statement. Anonymous sources leaked emails showing that supervisors had manually flagged Samantha as a false caller in their system. Any future 911 calls from her phone were automatically deprioritized, and they lied about it. November 13th, the cabin. A hiker on the Chattahoochee Trail reported a foul smell coming from a locked hunting cabin, deep in unpatrolled woods, almost 30 miles from Loganville. Inside, investigators found women's clothing, zip ties, hair strands, and a moldy Bible. Burned candles surrounded a crude altar, and under the floorboards the blanket, bloodstained. No body, but 2 long red hairs were found embedded in the wood. Samantha had red hair. Marcus's autopsy, the red flag. The forensic pathologist found something odd in Marcus's stomach contents, soil and pine needles. He had been buried, then exhumed. Someone had dug him up, repositioned him, hung his body from a tree to send a message. Alyssa's final secret. Jade, still barely able to sleep, finally turned over Alyssa's second phone, one her parents hadn't known about. On it was a screenshot of an Instagram DM. You can't save her, but you'll watch her die. The sender's handle? Deleted. The account was created just 1 day before Halloween. IP address traced to a library in New Salem, a ghost town 10 miles from Griggs's property. No one had lived there since 1994. November 15th, undercover camera footage. Detective Monroe placed a wildlife camera in the crawl space beneath the Griggs property. Motion activated. Silent. At 3:27 a.m., the camera triggered. A figure appeared, crawling out of the hole. Male, thin, wearing a torn black hoodie. Face not visible. He looked directly at the lens and smiled. That evening, Monroe receives a plain envelope on her desk. Inside is a photo. It's dark, grainy. It shows Sam. Alive. She's in a dark room. Zip ties around her wrists, eyes swollen from crying. A piece of paper taped to her shirt reads, "For we're not enough. You protected her once. Protect her again." Monroe flips the photo over. One final message is scrawled in red ink. Deliver the 5th, or she burns like the rest. What is Deliver 5? Who is the figure stalking these teens? And how long has this nightmare been planned? In Part 3, the town sins and Sam's family secret will finally come to light. November 16th, 2017, Loganville, Georgia. Detective Layla Monroe held the photo of Samantha Carter like it was burning her hands. The timestamp on the back was recent, less than 48 hours old. That meant Sam was still alive, but it also meant something worse. The person who had abducted her was not only watching, he was close enough to deliver that photo directly to Monroe's desk inside the GBI regional office. No fingerprints, no DNA, no security footage of who left it. Just that haunting phrase, "Deliver the 5th." And now, Monroe finally understood. This wasn't random. This was a ritual. The pattern emerges. Looking back over the last decade, Monroe's team found a disturbing series of coincidences. October 2011, Carrollton, Georgia. 5 teens went missing on Halloween night. Only 1 body was ever found. October 2015, Macon, Georgia. 4 friends found in a burned-out car. 1 survivor, who later took her own life. October 2015, Bainbridge, Georgia. 5 girls go camping. 2 dead. 2 missing. 1 returned mute and permanently institutionalized. Each incident involved a group of 5, each around Halloween. Each time, 1 was never recovered. Local law enforcement always wrote it off as drugs, suicide, or freak accidents. But the files had something else in common. Anonymous tips sent to police departments weeks in advance, warning them to intervene. Every one of those tips had the same sign-off. Deliver the 5th. The real target. Monroe called Jade Lynn and asked her to come in. She needed to see something. Jade sat silently as the detective laid out the photos, the map, the connections. And then she whispered something that changed everything. Alyssa told me she was protecting Sam. From what? From her grandfather. The Carter family's secret. Samantha Carter's grandfather, Reverend Elias Carter, was a small-town preacher in the 1980s and 90s. He died under mysterious circumstances in 2001 after a scandal involving missing church funds and allegations of abuse. But what Monroe discovered in sealed juvenile records was far more disturbing. In 1999, Elias Carter had been accused of leading an underground religious sect. The court sealed the investigation due to lack of evidence and the involvement of minors. The sect's name? The Fifth Covenant. Its doctrine revolved around spiritual purification through sacrifice. They believed 5 souls must be offered to protect the chosen. Only the 5th would survive and carry the burden. Monroe wasn't looking for a random killer anymore. She was looking for a cult built on blood and belief. And Sam Carter was the 5th, November 17th, break in the case. At 2:41 a.m., Monroe's surveillance team captured a figure breaking into the evidence locker at the local precinct. The footage shows a man in his 40s, thin, pale, wearing a clerical collar under a heavy coat. Facial recognition failed, but something on his hand caught Monroe's eye. A tattoo in the shape of 5 vertical lines, one slashed through. The next morning, all of the evidence from the Griggs site was gone, burned, and the dispatcher who had terminated Sam's 911 call was found dead in her home. No forced entry. Single knife wound to the heart. On the wall, written in blood, "You failed her twice. This is mercy." November 18th, the message from Sam. A video file was emailed anonymously to Monroe's encrypted work account. The video opened on a dimly lit room, bare walls, one flickering bulb overhead. Sam sat in a wooden chair, zip-tied, pale but defiant. "I don't know how long I've been here," she said, "but I know what they are now. It wasn't about Alyssa. It was me. They said I was the 5th to carry her. They've done this before. They'll do it again, unless someone stops them. Tell my mom I'm not scared anymore. If you see the man with no eyes, run." Then the screen cut to static. A new lead, the burned church. Using satellite imagery and a tip from a retired federal agent who once investigated the Fifth Covenant in the 90s, Monroe tracked down an abandoned church compound deep in the Okefenokee swamp. Locals had long believed it to be cursed. The property had recently been bought under a shell corporation, linked back to a man named Benji Griggs, the son of Pastor Elijah Griggs. Monroe assembled a tactical team and moved in at dawn. Inside the chapel, they found relics, painted symbols, blood, chains bolted to pews, and one horrifying centerpiece, a stained glass window depicting 5 children on fire and one walking away untouched. In the basement, Monroe found a hidden door. Behind it, stairs leading into darkness. At the bottom, a single red chair, still warm, and scrawled in chalk above it, "She has seen. She will carry. You cannot stop the 5th." A call came in from a gas station 200 miles north, near the Tennessee border. A woman matching Sam Carter's description had been spotted. She was barefoot, bloody, silent. The clerk said she handed him a note before disappearing into the woods. It read, "They buried the truth in me. I remember everything. You were never supposed to find me, but you did. Now they're coming for you, too." The gas station security camera caught a final image, a figure in black, standing just outside the window, watching. In the final chapter, Samantha emerges with terrifying truths. Detective Monroe must confront the legacy of the Fifth Covenant, and the answer to who's really behind it all will change everything. November 19th, 2017, 3:12 a.m. The gas station was locked down. Blood samples confirmed it was Samantha Carter. The clerk, visibly shaken, described her as calm but hollow, like she'd seen something no one should. But there was something else. After reviewing security footage again, frame by frame, Detective Monroe noticed a second figure, barely visible. A tall man in a black coat, standing beneath the gas station awning, his face entirely in shadow. He never moved, never blinked. But when Samantha looked at him, she smiled. A town in collapse. Back in Loganville, news had spread. Sam Carter was alive, but the celebration was short-lived. Detective Monroe received an internal memo that chilled her blood. Operation Embers. Classified religious activity flagged in 5 Georgia counties. Potential internal corruption at state and local levels. Do not proceed without federal authorization. The Department of Homeland Security was stepping in, and they were shutting Monroe down. The secret interview, November 20th, 2017. Despite orders to cease all investigation, Monroe secretly met with Tamara Reed, the fired 911 dispatcher whistleblower. Tamara had been receiving letters, all unsigned, all written in the same red ink as the photo message Monroe received. One of them read, "The fifth speaks through fire. Silence her or burn with her." Tamara confessed something else, voice trembling. "I was told not to answer that 911 call. We were warned weeks earlier. They said if anyone tried to help a girl, they'd burn our families alive." It wasn't just a cult. It was inside the station, inside the department. They're everywhere. Sam resurfaces. At 10:41 p.m., Monroe received an encrypted video file sent from an IP address registered to a public library in Kentucky. Sam Carter appeared on screen. This time, she was alone, sitting in a motel room. Behind her, the television played static. Her voice was calm. "Focus. They taught me how to hide, how to lie, how to survive. I was part of the Fifth Covenant since I was a child. I just didn't know it. Alyssa knew. That's why she brought me out there. Not for fun, for sacrifice. But she changed her mind. She tried to save me. That's why she died." Sam looked away from the camera. Marcus didn't know. Jade didn't know. Zachary was supposed to be the witness. One always survives to carry the story. But I was the fifth, and the fifth doesn't die. The fifth becomes the next shepherd. The ritual. Monroe revisited the hidden church compound, this time alone and unauthorized. Deep within its crypt, she found a chamber marked with 5 carved names. Alyssa, Marcus, Zachary, Jade, Samantha. But Samantha's name had been scratched out. Above it, a new word, returned. In the center of the chamber, 5 black candles were arranged in a circle, all unlit except one. And beside the circle, a torn page from a Bible. "And the fifth shall rise with no memory, and through blood shall the covenant be fulfilled." December 1st, 2017, federal seizure. Homeland Security raided the compound. What they found was destroyed by fire before forensic teams could secure it. Files gone. Hard drives melted. Bodies burned beyond recognition. The official report labeled the church as a radical domestic cult cell. Case closed. No mention of Samantha Carter. No mention of Deliver the Fifth. The real ending, or just beginning. On Christmas Eve, Detective Monroe received a single envelope, postmarked from Salem, Massachusetts. Inside was a photo. Samantha Carter, standing at a pulpit in an empty church. Behind her, painted on the wall, 5 will burn, 1 will rebuild. Taped to the bottom was a message written in red. Shepherds don't run. They gather. Final police dashcam footage shows Monroe alone in her car, reviewing case files. A figure crosses the road ahead, tall in a black coat, barefoot. Monroe slams on the brakes, grabs her flashlight, runs into the woods. The last audio heard. "Sam? Sam, wait." Then static. Cut to black. 2 years later, 5 teens go missing in rural Alabama. Only 1 returns. When questioned by police, she says just 4 words. "The fifth will return." The end. Or is it